we are live. So, welcome to episode 117 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. Yeah, I mean, considering you were here at episode 2.
Yeah, you can't count that high.
Yeah. 117 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. In the house tonight, we've got Shin Godzilla.
That's right, baby.
Right off the border of Tokyo. And, oh no.
I'm coming for you. I'm radioactive.
That is it. That is it. IT. So, this is the third movie that we have covered in the Monsterverse. Bill was here for the 1954 original film, Godzilla. And we were looking at a very scary and dark movie that had a lot to say. A lot going on beneath the surface. Last week...
I fell asleep.
Well, last week, Bill fell asleep, but we had Rod here because Rod pulls the late shift. And Rod, like Bill, is an enormous Godzilla fan.
Nice.
And when he saw that we were doing Godzilla, he was like you. I'm on those automatically. He messaged me personally and he says, set me aside some fucking Godzilla movies. And I said, no problem.
I'm glad he got it. I watched the remake or whatever you want to call it with Cranston and it was just good, man. I enjoyed it.
It's good. This is what we got in the second movie. I enjoyed it a great deal. Rod's complaint about this movie was that there wasn't enough Godzilla in it.
I felt the same way when I first saw it, but I thought it was super clever that all the fight scenes seemed to be happening on the TV as background while people were watching it. I thought that was pretty clever.
Rod, he didn't mind it, and we talked about many good things about the film. He just didn't care too much about Elizabeth Olsen and her husband trying to get back together again. But there were some cool shots where, like, he airdrops into the middle of that fight.
Dude, that Halo drop is the best scene with the best music in the background. I love that.
Yeah, that was fantastic. There was limited engagements with the military, but on those few those poor special forces guys were just getting fucking squashed into jelly, man. Yep. I mean, and you just see these like little flickers of lights from all the bullets that they've got flying, and it's just accomplishing nothing, and you just feel terrible for them.
Did you guys bring up the fact that the female Muto looks like Cloverfield?
Yes, we do. Well,
like Cloverfield, shaped like Cloverfield.
The creature designs were fantastic. Actually, I said it was something out of Lovecraft. I mean, you got some real. These were impressive creature designs. These were original creatures. I loved them. But again, Rod personally wasn't crazy about the fact he didn't care about, Elizabeth Olsen trying to get back. He wanted to see more smash. And he didn't want to see, and I didn't argue with him. I thought he had a point. He didn't want to see it on the TV. He wanted to see big brash, which by the time we get to next week and we get to King of the Monsters, they get it, they give Rod what he wants.
Yeah, exactly.
They're giving Rod what he wants by the time you get to the second movie.
Yeah, I mean, the Elizabeth Olsen stuff, because there isn't as much political or social commentary and weight to this, they had to make it into. There had to be something at stake, so it had to be a by the numbers action flick.
And Elizabeth Olsen was good in it. The guy who plays her husband Ford was the guy who was her brother in Age of Ultron. He was Quicksilver, so they had some chemistry. It was okay.
I actually forgot that she was in it in the first scene when she got her reveal. I was like, oh yeah,
Wanda. Yeah. And you've got Watanabe playing Dr. Serizawa, and I always love to see Ken Watanabe. Yep. He's a little bit of a mad scientist in this. He just wants him to fight it out. And you've got the military is like, no, we can't do that. right?
Yeah.
We can't just let people fight all over the planet, this sort of thing.
Yeah, I appreciated that they at least kept the through line that appears in a lot of post 1954 Godzillas, which is just monsters appearing when humans are in conflict with nature, and that seems to be a common through line to a lot of the movies.
Yeah. Hold on, we got a comment already. It is Eric. He goes,
Eric.
I was initially like Rod with a 2014 version and wanted more Godzilla, but enjoyed it more with the second viewing. I appreciated it a lot more. Yeah, I have no problem with the first movie. I think they did a really good job. It was an impressive creature. They clearly gave a shit.
Yes.
They weren't just, signing off on it, or phoning it in. It's a solid movie, and I really like what they've done so far. We were talking about what's going to be next because you've gone King of the Monsters, and we are going to cover Skull Island, and we're going to cover Kong versus Godzilla. And I was talking to somebody the other day, I can't remember who, about what's going to happen because there's supposed to be a Kong versus Godzilla 2. And someone made the mention that maybe they're going to bring in Monster X. So that would be interesting to see. Because I think he ranks higher than Ghidorah, right?
I thought Monster X and Ghidorah were the same thing.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh. I didn't think that was the case. I thought it was a separate monster.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I thought I Googled it and it said that they were separate, but I could be wrong.
Separate movies, but the same three-headed dragon. One came from outer space.
Okay. All right.
I'm going back to like 1968.
Yeah. And who knows? You could rewrite a little bit of canon, or maybe create an original monster. They did it with the Mutos.
I don't mind the rewrites and not sticking to canon because this is supposed to be its self-contained story.
Yeah.
And I think the invention of Monarch was just brilliant. If you're going to go MCU, you have to create an entire lore for it. And I thought the first movie did it really well with the setting the stage of, this is why we were setting off bombs in the Pacific, trying to kill Godzilla, and the existence of Monarch, which goes from World War II all the way to, modern times.
Right. To even connect it to the Kong Skull Island, where you've got John Goodman. He's the Monarch rep. And John Goodman's always great to, that's a fantastic and fun movie. It's the only movie that involves King Kong that doesn't give me an ulcer, because every time I watch King Kong, it just makes me despise society. You want to brick up your house and just like have people leave you the hell alone. It really does. Because King Kong, like the way that you are to Godzilla, I am to King Kong.
Sure.
And so you just watch this fucking tragedy unfold, and you're like, "What the fuck is going? What are you people doing?" And it just plays out every time. It's like a bad Shakespearean play or a really good one.
Yeah. Well, it's manipulative as hell. And, And it's so weird that it's always on Thanksgiving, or at least it was when I was growing up.
I can't watch it.
It became a total tradition. We would watch King Kong in the morning before the football started.
No, there's no version of that I will watch other than Skull Island now, and versus Godzilla, and the original versus Godzilla, which I think Rod is much more of a fan of than the remake. He likes that original.
Now here's the question. Have you seen and do you own the sequel to the 1976 Kong on top of the World Trade Center movie? Because I didn't know it existed.
You mean King Kong Lives?
Ago. Yes. Until like 6 months ago. And I haven't been able to find it anywhere. It's not streaming. I haven't been able to find a DVD, but I am so super interested in seeing what is obviously going to be a train wreck.
Yeah, let me clarify my point. I love Godzilla. I can't bear to own any because I'll never watch it. So what I own is Skull Island. What I own is the modern versus Godzilla. And then I have to get back and get to the old retro where they're in the suits, because that's just too much fun. Where you get the rightful outcome, which is that Kong kicks the crap out of that guy in the green suit, And then he doesn't even kill him. He just kicks his ass and then just walks away and goes back to Skull Island. It's a fun movie. Hold on a second. We've got somebody else who. Oh, it's Eric again. Okay, I have a copy of King Kong Liz. Linda Hamilton.
And he Hamilton, said, nice.
Yeah, he said it's worse than a train wreck.
Awesome. That's obviously I've got to see that. It can't be worse than King Kong versus Robo King Kong, which is another good one. That's another pure King Kong versus Godzilla sequel in the original series.
There are, and that's, I mean, like, I don't think you're much of well, you are kind of a collectibles fan. Maybe not necessarily of figures or whatever or things, but LPs and, that kind of stuff. I am not, but yeah, okay. But I am not, what I love, and this is what I love about Amazon, as much as I find fault with Amazon, when they started opening up the ability to buy used product from people.
Mm-hmm.
I very much believe in giving a used book a home, or a used DVD, a used Blu-ray, and there's at such a bargain rate. Yesterday, I was in the chat with Toshi Asaka, the film director, and I was telling him how, after I discovered the Black Belt Theater as I got older, maybe when I was more ready, samurai films appeared in my life, which are more character-driven stories.
Sure. Better quality film altogether.
Oh, yeah. It's a completely different thing. A 15-year-old probably wouldn't have much attention span for that kind of thing.
No use for Kurosawa. You got to get through the Shaolin Temple first.
Yeah, I got to watch Duel of the Iron Fist. Leave me alone, So what I came to understand, though, was that, I would never have been able to have access to these things because they're just so damn expensive. But Amazon brought them where I could find a used copy for $10. I mean, some of those still hold top dollar value.
Yes.
They're still very expensive. And so you could find a used copy, somebody who's got one in a library, or somebody for whatever reason, is getting rid of their copy of Yojimbo, or the Sword of Doom, or, the Samurai trilogy, with the Shiro Mifune and all these things.
And there's plenty of collectibles shops that sell used stuff on Amazon. I won't mention any by name, but there's 3 or 4 of them that are my go-tos, that they always have the stuff at reasonable prices.
If you could link me up that name, I'll take a look.
Okay.
I'm happy to throw them some business.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
All right. It can be Ryan. Female Kong with breasts, robotic hearts, Kong blood transfusions, baby Kong, and more.
Gracious.
It can be Bill. He called you Ryan there for a second. Female Kong. Okay, yeah.
Shame on you.
So, here we're not talking about any of that. We've gone back to Japan.
Yes.
And 2 years after Legendary releases King Kong, the one that Godzilla, the one that we covered last week.
Right.
Japan decides to dust off their fella and said, fuck that. We can make a Godzilla. We know how to make Godzilla movies too. The time is right. And they're correct about that, because, Legendaries was a huge box office success worldwide. People are ready, for more Godzilla. And they brought in something completely different.
It's completely bizarre. There was so much buzz about this thing. I remember when it came out and it wasn't playing anywhere near me, and everyone's talking, have you seen the Shin? Have you seen the Shin? It took me forever to see it. For a while, you couldn't find it. And then for a while, the DVDs were $65. And then they started popping up in used stores for $5. Yeah. So I hadn't seen it until very recently. I finally got off my ass and got a Blu-ray of it.
I was in Japan. And because I was somewhere else, I had absolutely no idea that Japan had really, because I had seen Godzilla Legendaries over in India. Mm-hmm. Me and all my American friends, oh shit, they're making a Godzilla movie. We got to go see it. And we all saw it. We loved it. Talking about it the way we're talking about it now. Had no idea that Japan 2 years later decided to do the same thing.
Right.
I'm in Japan and I'm like, what? Wait, there's a fucking Godzilla movie? And I just it was different than anything I had seen before come out of there. So if you're ready, I think we should get it going, shall we?
All right.
Boogie woogie. So what sets this apart is it's a bit retro in the sense, at least to me, in the sense that it is a return to the old menacing king of the monsters. Mm-hmm. He's not here to fight for you. He's not here. He doesn't even seem to be here necessarily to smash shit. He just kind of shows up and does his thing.
Right.
Which is just roll through your whole fucking city.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's almost like, and, you know, it's called Shin Godzilla. And I did a little, wiki research, and a couple other things. Shin in Japanese can have 3 different translations. It can mean new, so new Godzilla. Mm-hmm. It can mean true Godzilla, or it can mean God, as in a deity.
Right.
Sort of monster. Mm-hmm. And I sort of identify with the third characteristic or, definition of Shin, because he just he's crushing everything, but he's just completely indifferent.
Right.
To whatever he's doing. And he reminded me of some sort of, that reminded me of a Lovecraft creature.
Right.
He's just otherworldly.
Yes.
He's not eating. He's not attacking people. He doesn't almost seem to notice, that all these people are living in, because it's his world.
Right.
It's like the equivalent of us going out and stepping on an anthill.
Yeah, it's just this remorseless creature from the sea that just shows up one day. And the whole movie is about how people are dealing with it. So that the God definition, it's kind of good. I mean, I don't know if it's deity or whatnot. You got to think of it not like Christian gods, but like the God of the sea. He just showed up. What do we do?
Right. Or maybe the God of the earth.
Right.
That kind of thing. Like, he's just kind of the master of everything that he comes in contact with. Mm-hmm. They said they used a description like that in the 2014 version. For all intents and purposes, this is some sort of primordial God. That used to walk the earth, and now he's back again. There were some reviews here from this article, Zam. This guy, Robert Rath, said that it's a satire of Japanese politics, which is absolutely correct.
Absolutely.
And likened the protagonist, Yaguchi, because this happened in the wake of the Japanese earthquake, which in turn caused the Japanese tsunami. Uh-huh. And then the Fukushima nuclear disaster. So, not just the Legendary Pictures success, but also this thing that had happened in Japan. Mm-hmm. It seemed a good time to roll out, their favorite boy, to use him to tell the story of, what's happening these days within the Japanese bureaucracy.
It's absolutely what a kaiju is. It's a monster that represents some other existential threat to Japan. And I remember being in grad school in a class referencing Godzilla because of that. It was like right after Fukushima happened, and we were talking about the people who would march right into these fields of high radioactivity to try and save the country. And I just kept referencing Godzilla in the classroom discussions about it.
Yeah. I mean, the first movie, definitely about post-World War II, and these people that are struggling between, the World War II mentality, now this new sort of modern Japan, You know, all the radiation fallout, you know, being helpless in the face of all this. You know, the old school, you know, sort of stoic mindset from Dr. Serizawa, you know, and the new people that are kind of useless, you know, but end up winning the day.
Right. It was striking to me, the depiction of the Japanese bureaucracy in 15, 16, and comparing that to the depiction of Japanese bureaucracy in the original, because it was just so I don't even know what the word is. It seemed more down to earth and like personable, I guess. It wasn't as faceless layers of government, you know, red tape. It seemed like the depiction in the original was, you know, these people are in charge and they're telling you, you know, everything will be all right. We've got it under control. And then in the Shin one, it's just layer after layer of cover your ass.
Yeah, and this might be a bit hyperbole, but I'm almost thinking of the word, the bureaucracy has metastasized. It's throughout everything.
Yep.
Hold on a second. We've got William Sutzi, author of Godzilla on My Mind, wrote in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette that, quote, Shin Godzilla leaves no doubt that the greatest threat to Japan comes not from without, but from within. Sure. From a geriatric, fossilized government bureaucracy unable to act decisively or to stand up resolutely to foreign pressure.
Yes.
In his review from Forbes, Ali Barter wrote that the film depicted the Japanese government's, quote, complex and corpulent bureaucratic ways, unable to deal with the crisis in any kind of efficient or fluid way, end quote. Noting that the government members used a hierarchical system to protect their positions at the expense of citizens' lives.
Yep.
According to Schilling, the government officials, self-defense forces, and others working to defeat Godzilla are portrayed as hardworking and intelligent, despite some initial bumbling. So, yeah, the people that are at mid-level or below are working their ass off.
Yes.
They're giving up their lives. You know, they're, sleepless nights. And I think that, they've been staying there for days, in this one office. And we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah,
these are universal themes, man. As I was watching it, I couldn't help but go right back to what we went through the last 2 years with the pandemic. It's the same kind of thing. Who's lying to us? Who's on the front lines working their asses off, and who's making money off of it, who's covering their ass, and all that. I couldn't help but see the whole pandemic in it, and shades of 9/11 even.
This reminded me a little bit of, but not quite so severe. My example is much more severe of the series Chernobyl.
Oh yeah.
Where if you got found out, you got shot, pretty much right there on the spot. I remember when that guy, when that general goes in to get the radiation count, and the one guy says it's 3 rotogen, and that Russian general, he's just a badass. He's like my favorite character in that whole show. He's like, I'll do it myself, and he just goes in. He's like, it's not 3,000, it's 15,000. And then those 2 guys just get taken right away. Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah,
Stellan Skarsgård just drags those 2 right away. Some officer somewhere just pulled out a fucking, gun and just shot him right there. But yeah,
and yet the mine workers that they were sending into the place, even though they'd been kicked around by the Soviet system for so long that they were just so indifferent to it, or just sort of like they had that gallows humor, yet they still were like resolute, like, yeah, we're going to do this because we have to do this.
When they sent him in on that rooftop to scrape the whatever they were filling that hole with to seal the core. Oh man, and you can only be in there for like 30 seconds or 90 seconds. It's just heart-wrenching. And yeah, no one's ever going to know who those people are. They're going to die of radiation poisoning. It's obvious.
Yep.
Ugh. Horrible.
Yeah, so these themes are universal. We can understand them here in the U.S. They understand them in Japan. They understand them in Russia after all of their woes with out of control bureaucracy. You know, if you want to talk about Kafka, you know, if you've ever read the book The Castle, same stuff. And that's you know 200. It's 150 years old.
Yeah. These are universal themes. Hold on, we got Slasher Fred in the 70s. There was a Godzilla cartoon series. Yeah. And there was a 90s cartoon series that was a spinoff from the 98 film. We don't talk about that 98 film here. It didn't happen.
The film that shall not be named and the cartoon that shall not be named.
That's exactly right.
I used to watch the 70s cartoon on Saturday mornings, Godzilla and Godzuki, the little one.
Yeah. And he used to parachute in or something like that. I remember that. Yeah.
Hilarious. I used to collect the comic books too, which were great. Marvel was really off the rails at that point.
Yeah, and they had there was a red dinosaur, wasn't there? Oh God, they had a caveman. Red. Oh Jesus, I can't remember, but yeah, there was like a red T-Rex.
Okay.
And like a caveman from like 10,000 BC used to ride him or something like that. And they actually met Godzilla once, and Godzilla was like 500 times the size of the T-Rex. So you know, it really wasn't much of a fight. But yeah, here. You've just got everyday people. I mean, kind of like before any nuclear disaster, they're living their lives.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, you know, this bridge this tunnel explodes, and, you know, water's coming in, and, you know, people automatically start panicking. You know, I thought that was kind of cool that you were getting these shots of just everyday citizens, because it was pretty realistic, actually, of what, you know, walking down the streets in Japan kind of looks like. You know, that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, this monster just kind of appears. Now, I couldn't find a shot of from where I usually get my overlays. I didn't see a shot of what were your first impressions when it just kind of rolls onto the island, almost like as a worm? I was like, what the fuck is this the first time I saw it?
Took me forever to conceptualize that and understand what they were doing with it. At first, I was like, what the fuck is this? This is bullshit. But I did realize that, you know, you have this weight of it's a Godzilla film, and then you put this ugly ass blue worm there, and you're like, what the fuck? But that's what a disaster is. That's what we're dealing with, is this thing that, you know, you can prepare yourself for Godzilla, but the thing that shows up is nothing like what you were expecting. It's a whole new thing, you know? So that's kind of the metaphor that I think they were going for with the worm thing at first.
Yeah, it takes a little getting used to. Hold on, I think I found something on the fly here. Yeah, you're right. And you're like, what the hell is that?
Yes.
And so you don't necessarily recognize. You're right. You don't recognize the danger. Well, you do, but say that again? What were you just explaining?
Just saying that, you know, in a disaster like Fukushima, like, we can prepare for any kind of contingency the same way that we would conceptualize, yeah, I know what Godzilla is. And then all of a sudden, they're throwing these two things at us in this movie that are unlike Godzilla at all. And it's kind of like how we first encounter some kind of disaster with denial and with not misunderstanding. And then as it evolves, it becomes something that we can recognize. And eventually the monster in the movie becomes this thing that we recognize as, oh, that's Godzilla. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not even that necessarily. It's just that you can tell from the get-go, this isn't going to go well.
Right. It's unsettling to look at that thing. It's weird.
Yeah, it is.
You're going like, what?
It's weird, and it's bulbous, and it's got no arms, and it's kind of like if you were like keeping your hands to your side and you're wiggling on your stomach. This kind of thing. It's this gelatinous thing with these small little arms, and it can't really hold itself up. But then we realize that it evolves. And it evolves really quickly. And I think that was a good point in this movie, because if they had stayed with that for too long, they would have lost a lot of people.
Right.
That form that you see right there, the first form, really only lasts for about 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then instantly, it just starts to, like, you see the legs start to, like, roid out. You know, and I kept thinking of, like, Hulk Hogan, the way he used to hulk up. in WrestleMania or something like that, or like with every match, because that's what he did. And then before long, you had something like that.
Yes.
Where it's just kind of lumbering along. But again, like the man in the editorial said, the real problem isn't the monster, it's the bureaucracy.
Right.
One, no one has any answers.
Mm-hmm.
The top scientists, like, nobody knows anything. And there's one guy, Yamaguchi, I think. He hypothesizes that, the leak is caused from something, that some monster or some living thing that's going to come on shore. And he's immediately told to shut up.
Yep.
And then his friend tells him, hey, if you want to be the rebel, that's fine. But remember me, I'm the one who got you in the room.
Yes.
So, they're like guilting him. It's like, you're attached to this, sort of guilt that you can't speak up, because if you're wrong, it's not just you, it's going to be me.
Mm-hmm.
You can see how it just sort of, the bureaucracy just sort of weaves its way through everything.
Right. And in an honor-based culture like Japan, it's even harder, because you have to constantly think not only of yourself, right, but of everyone else. It's weird.
So, yes, so much is about the form of things.
Right.
Improvisation, free thinking, these are not things that are necessarily encouraged. There are very few avenues where that sort of, a Western style of thinking, right, no, that's very heavily frowned upon. You'll find yourself ostracized really quickly. Mm-hmm. Going against, because Asia is kind of like that. They're, it's just everything's about the society. Mm-hmm. This kind of thing. So no one has any answers. No one can make a decision to kill or to capture the biologists. No one can decide anything. And so while they're butterfingering and, politicking everything, it proceeds to evolve, just like you said. And you end up with a formidable looking Godzilla. This is probably I thought this was a menacing fucking Godzilla.
It is, but those T-Rex arms, man. Jeez.
I think I don't remember exactly, but I just saw it today. But don't the arm? Well, maybe it's just the shots and the cinematography. The arms seem much bigger than they are in this shot.
I'm just used to the big arms and the clapping and the wrestling rubber suit, but the rest of it is pretty scary.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, look at those.
Yes.
Yeah, look at those. Those things are able to grab something. These, not necessarily so much.
Yeah, Tyrannosaurus Rex jokes.
Yeah. But I mean, quickly you're finding out that, everything requires a meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you have to spread, if there's going to be blame, I'm going to make sure that I've spread it to everyone in the room.
Yep.
I'm going to dilute any responsibility, but I'm going to take all the credit. Clearly, the person in charge is going to take all the credit if it goes well. But if it goes badly, I can say, well, I told 12 other people.
Exactly. And that was high comedy, especially, again, going back to the pandemic. Any business that started working from home, there's just all these meetings, all these Zoom meetings every freaking day. And it's stuff that could have been covered with an email. And that stuff reminded me of the HBO show Veep, where it's constantly like blame credit. It just made me laugh out loud watching it happen.
After a while, I found myself starting to get aggravated with people.
Of course.
Because you're just like, what the fuck is going on? Like the one guy's like, we have to have a meeting as to whether or not we can hold a press conference. Like everything is just, the one guy says something, I think we're going to be okay. And hey, be careful with that unfounded optimism. He's being taught not to, step outside the groupthink.
Yep.
So to speak.
Again, that's the Toho Pictures representation of Japanese society. You're looking at a mirror of themselves, and they're trying to, get them to look and see, this is what you are. Just like in the original, when the Americanized, westernized Japanese people on the subway, and then they're on the boat and they get clobbered by kaiju. Same thing, man. I think I think Toho's really like they're sort of being the counterculture at this point.
It's just it's hard because the way that things are moving, it's like one of those bullet trains, man. Everything's just moving so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy just to watch this movie and to let it gloss right past you, what they're actually trying to say.
Yeah. I like the cinematography matches the themes in that everything's a maze. And what gets through the maze so easily is just Godzilla. He's just indifferent to it all, and he's just smashing it. Like I imagine people want him to smash these corridors of bureaucracy.
Yeah, I mean, everybody that is capable of making a decision is completely useless.
Yes.
Everybody and while, they sit there and think and ponder, and then they keep saying, you have to make a decision. How many times do they say that through the course of this movie? They go look at the next guy. You have to make the decision.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, you have to tell me that it's okay to do this. It's really kind of, it's unsettling to watch. It's not good at all. They get this message that, the unfounded optimism, that was the mistake we made in Imperial Japan.
Mm-hmm.
All these things that they just kind of keep saying and using to smack people back in the line.
Yep.
After Godzilla leaves, the one guy, Yamaguchi, says it was only ashore for about 2 hours, and look what it did. No, somebody else says that. And then Yamaguchi goes, no, we had as long as 2 hours to mount an initial response. That's disappointing. Like, they just did nothing.
Mm-hmm.
This thing just landed right in the middle of the island. So what they end up doing is forming this sort of crack team of outcasts, which again, I mean, they're saying something right there.
Yes.
All the people that are troublemakers, the nerds, the rejects, the people that, nobody, that nobody wants anything to do with. That's the group that ends up being put together to solve all of this. Free thinkers, in other words. And I like them.
Motley crew, man, a motley crew.
Yeah, I liked every one of these guys, especially that guy in the back with the guy in the back with the blazer, and the girl on the left.
Yes.
I like them both. I would have liked if they had fleshed these characters out some more, because my one criticism of this movie is that I didn't really care much about Yamaguchi.
Right.
I didn't really care much, and I found a lot of the dialogue confusing.
Right. And the faces were not distinct enough for me and my Western eyes. I'm not saying they all look alike. Don't get me wrong there. I'm just saying a lot of characters wearing the same suit. It was hard for me to tell them apart. If they were famous in Japan, I could probably tell them apart. The same thing happened in Hulu's Sex Pistols series this week. It's Sex Pistols 90210, where it's all just young people, young, good-looking people, and you can barely tell them apart.
Yeah, I couldn't. They didn't give anybody any standout sort of, and maybe that was what they were trying to aim for.
I mean, yeah, if it's a comment on Japanese society and everyone, falling over themselves to try and conform just to fit in, yes, but it didn't help the movie, at least for me and my dumb Western eyes. I couldn't latch on any characters.
Yeah, I couldn't separate them. That's why the two people who slightly stood out for me, and that's the guy in the blazer, the professor, and then the one girl who's always sort of making snippy comments.
Mm-hmm.
So and maybe that's only because she was a female. She was like the only girl in the movie, aside from the one American, the Japanese American.
At least she didn't break anybody's heart and let the cat out of the bag that there's some super secret technology. I mean, at least there's that.
It would have been fantastic if the first thing Godzilla says when he mutated into his final form was, "I have a message from Dr. Serizawa." And just stepped, is there an MEK here? Boom, and just smashed her, She's like an old lady or something like that,
Nice.
I remember you, boom, and then that would have worked out fine. So, the United States gets involved. That was an interesting take on how they viewed the United States. It starts off in their interpretation as a lot of unilateral requests. The Department of Energy, the NSA, the CIA, they bring in this Japanese American,
right?
Who's incredibly nice to look at.
Yes.
I mean, they're like super nice. She's like a model. But she's annoying. Like nobody talks to. And I think it was like maybe they were almost caricaturing some sort of American woman, in like 2016 or maybe like what a Japanese American woman would be like. She's so American that, she's just unrelatable.
Right. That's yeah. I mean, I can see their point too, especially
she was annoying because she's like she's like some debutante, and like she wants to be president by the time she's 40, things that just make no sense. So maybe it is just a caricature of these, ridiculous aspirations, that maybe Japanese American women have, or maybe it's American women in general, or maybe it's just Americans in general.
Yeah, especially millennial age.
Yeah, I mean, she's going to be president before she's 40, and she walks in there with some answers. Did she have any answers? She had some assistants. They do make the one.
She was just a lot of talk and flash and very annoying, like you said. That's how I found her. But I stopped paying attention because I can only take so much American bashing at one time, even if it's true, even if I can recognize it. I just couldn't.
I understand. They do make the one comment that America values performance over age. Everybody that is in charge is an old man.
Mm-hmm.
It's an old, like there are no women. There's the one woman who I think is like the Secretary of Defense or the liaison for the military. Other than that, everybody is an old Japanese man.
Right.
With these, and like the commentary said, just these old fossilized, ideas. She works well she seems to work fairly well with the crack team, a little bit, but she really didn't add very much. I think maybe they would have been better if they had found somebody that wasn't Japanese, a Japanese American, and just somebody other of another. I mean, clearly they weren't. You look at these movies, and between this and the 2014 movie, and you see that there's, and I know I'm sort of skipping and jumping, but it's like stream of consciousness thinking. You see the difference in the budget.
Yeah.
That these movies have.
Of course.
This is a good movie. Don't misunderstand me. I own this movie on Blu-ray. It sounds like we're bagging on it, all over the place. But we are picking out the things that, are kind of but yeah, they don't have the budget that like Legendary does.
Right, exactly. And that's another kick in the head from America. But, they're doing what Toho does, which is stretching a dollar to make a good story.
And they do.
Yeah.
They do make a good story. It's funny. I'm watching this movie on Netflix now. It's like 3 hours long, called RRR. It's an Indian movie, a Hindi movie.
Okay.
And the villain is Ray Stevenson. Like he played he was in King Arthur. He was Dagony in the King Arthur movie with Clive Owen.
Okay.
He played the Punisher, Punisher Warzone. Mm-hmm. He was in Rome. He's Titus Pillow.
Oh, okay, sure.
Titus Pullo is the villain in an Indian movie over there in India. He's only in it for like, huh?
That's interesting. I wonder what happened to him, because he was in that Will Ferrell movie, The Other Guys, and then I never saw him again.
Well, he was in all the Thor movies for the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
He was in that. He played Blackbeard in that Star series Black Sails, which is that's a fantastic show. But it's obvious they couldn't hire like DiCaprio, to come over and play like the CIA liaison or something like that. So they get a Japanese American woman and they get to, poke her in the eye a little bit. That kind of thing. So round 2, while they're all coming, and fighting and arguing and back and forth, he lands, and it's a scary looking monster, man. I mean, I get what you're saying about the arms, but I love the shots of all the Japanese people with scared faces. Like, what the hell do we have to do to this thing?
Right.
It kind of is like a Blue Oyster Cult movie, and there is quite a prolonged scene where Godzilla fights the military.
Yep, you got to have that.
Yeah,
it's actually pretty good.
Yeah, it is. 16,000 rounds off the minigun. What else do they got? They got rockets. They got helicopters. They got tanks. They got jets. And it doesn't even make a dent.
Yep. It never does. I don't know why they even try.
It's just, there's sort of, would you consider this some sort of soft reboot? Like, because there is no history of Godzilla in this movie. He just shows up in modern times, and it sort of ignores everything that's gone on for 60 years before that.
Yeah, it just seems like a one-off movie telling a story that's outside of any continuity or any canon of the three series.
Okay.
I mean, I can take that. I can dig that. That makes sense to me.
Eventually, Godzilla gets sick of everybody's shit and turns on the nuclear breath.
Yes.
And that scene where he turns on that nuclear breath is just awe-inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they're like dropping bombs on him. I think they bring in the stealth bombers, and it starts out as black smoke.
Yeah.
And then it heats up the fire, and you're just watching this fire spread throughout Tokyo. And then it just goes white hot nuclear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it really is something to behold.
And that's it's almost cliche at this point, but Tokyo in flames, harkening all the way back to World War II. It's just those scars run deep.
Yeah, I mean, there's the map that they show, because the Americans offer to come in and bomb before all this takes off. And it's kind of a jab at the Americans again, because you look at the map and every place is like something they want to bomb.
Right.
And he's like, this is worse than Godzilla.
Right, yeah. And they're not wrong. They're not wrong.
I got to tell you, wherever I went in the world, that is the opinion of, like America on the whole, not necessarily of Americans, but they're like, yeah, man, at the drop of a hat, man, they're going to send somebody over to bomb your ass back into the Stone Age. Yeah. Even people that countries that never got bombed, would say, you bombed us. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, we never, so much as dropped anything. But I suppose there is
a baby. You got the bombs, you drop them. That's the way it goes.
I saw that map and I just started cracking up, because there are just targets just everywhere throughout the city. It's like, Jesus Christ, this is worse than Godzilla.
That's right at our bomb happy nature.
That's it. But there is this message that nothing is stronger than that atomic energy. And so, it just starts to go bad. And before long, Godzilla just wrecks the whole fucking city. I did like, and this is what separated the bureaucracy for me from the military. Once the military lost, they immediately, because they're like, we can't do anything. And the one general says, "Don't lose heart." Because that one guy, he goes, "I'm sorry." He goes, "There's nothing we did was able to work." He's talking to his one, subordinate, and he apologizes to the general. And the general did something that none of the bureaucracy could do. He was able to shift gears, and he said, "Don't worry about it." He goes, "We can still evacuate people. Yeah. We can't win a stand-up fight against this thing, but right. There's some way that we can still be useful and save lives." Mm-hmm. So the people that are, like I said, at the middle level or below are actually working.
Which is a weird message for a pacifist country that really doesn't put a lot of stock in having a military.
No, they don't. And like I've said many times, when I see my Japanese friends making social media posts about what's going on in the world, they're like, don't do it. Don't do it. Mm-hmm. Didn't work out too well for us. I'm just telling you, don't do it. I'm not sure. I mean, I think that there probably are a lot of Japanese people. If they make their opinions known, they haven't made them known to me, that feel otherwise. I would like to see Japan get strong again. Especially with threats like North Korea and China, that sort of thing. I don't know that those sort of hardliners make it into high positions of power, though, within those parliaments.
Yeah.
I think they're sort of. Yeah, they're sort of the kooks.
Yeah.
So they're sort of like the outcasts and that sort of thing. But I think that there are people like that. There was a huge Japanese movement for Trump, for populism, just for populism in general, and those sorts of things. But I don't think that they're the majority. It might swing back the other way soon, though. I don't think they can continue to go on much longer this way. So we get a new prime minister. The acting prime minister is worse than the first one. He's worried about his noodles. The noodles in his noodles got soggy. And you're just like, holy shit, this guy is fucking useless.
Yeah, that is. I don't know if they're patterning that after a real person or not, but holy shit, that is a statement right there.
Yeah. I mean, Tokyo's just been destroyed. Your country city, center, like the center of Japan. Like everybody associates Tokyo with Japan. And it's just been leveled, and this guy wants his noodles. Mm-hmm. And then, it really is quite clever. Other countries start to sniff blood in the water. Russia and China. They want to come in because then the UN comes in. Mm-hmm. The UN comes in, and everybody wants to take over Japan. So It's either you can have Russia and China take it over, or Japan can sort of ally with the United States, understanding, of course, that the United States sort of treats Japan as a puppet. They say it. They say it at the end of the movie when that one woman and the guy are together, Patterson and Yamaguchi. She's like, "Oh, when I become president, I look forward to us, collaborate." He goes, "You look forward to me being your puppet." Yeah, like if I become prime minister, and that's what you're looking forward to. And she doesn't deny it. She just kind of looks away and, doesn't, So, there's that sort of thing. And then you get to the point where they want to drop a third bomb. And like the prime minister actually signs away the protection of his own country to the United Nations. He needs them to pass a law so that they can drop another bomb. This is a lot to talk about in a Godzilla movie.
Yes, exactly. It's just
this is a fucking Godzilla
message, and there's so many targets for this stuff. It's not just them pointing at themselves, going, "This is what Japan's like." They're like, "Do you understand that if you can't operate, you have threats from all these different nations?"
Yeah.
You get the bomb-happy Americans, and you get the Russians coming in, and then, of course, the Chinese. It's a real threat. Yeah. Depending on what happens with Taiwan, I mean, China's threatening to take some Japanese islands already.
We'll see what happens after the Summer Olympics. Once the Summer Olympics are over, it could be on. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, and they come out and say man is more frightening than Godzilla. That the people, and this is another reference point that they make. They don't know what Gojira means. Like somebody has to look it up on the phone. Like they've lost touch with all their lore.
Right.
From the first movie where Grandpa knew.
Yep.
Grandpa knew what was out there.
Grandpa sending virgins out on a boat.
Exactly. Sorry, bad crop this year. Get your ass on that raft. Talk to you later. Grandpa knew, but in 70 years, these people have to look at. Oh, it means this.
There is no grandpa, and the political machine just sucks.
Yeah, and all the wrong people are in charge. The people that might be better kind of don't have the ambition, but by the end, I didn't like Yamaguchi either. I didn't like Yamaguchi either, and I certainly didn't like Patterson.
There's no silver lining in this, man. It just grinds to the end. I felt no sort of it'll be all right.
You know what I felt? I felt that maybe Godzilla should have just steamrolled. Like maybe it's, and I don't want to get nihilistic.
Well, is that the point that you're supposed to be like on the side of, the kaiju who's just going to come and wipe you out?
Yeah. Maybe it's time for Planet Godzilla. These sorts of things, because everybody is, with the exception of the nerd party, everybody else is just kind of awful.
Right.
They really are. They're either low-level bureaucrats or mid-level bureaucrats or, high-level bureaucrats, and they're all scheming. And, how can, even Yamaguchi, he wants to be prime minister, and, Patterson wants to be president. And, the U.S. government is, they make that line. I think Japan's grown up enough. We can see that they have trade deals on the side, this, that, and the other. They really do treat them like puppets. Like there are no admirable characters in here except for the people that aren't in charge.
Right.
And as is always the case, those are the people that have no ambition and no desire to be in charge.
Right.
They want to go home at the end of the day and, do whatever it is that they do.
Yeah, it's Kafka-esque, the castle, there is no resolution. There's just ever unfolding, layers of bureaucracy. And in this one, it's the same thing, They're just fumbling while Rome burns and Godzilla, wipes them.
They're just completely faceless. One replaces the other. One is worse than the other. One is the same as the other. It's all kind of the same. So, the movie ends. They end up freezing Godzilla, understanding that at some point he's going to thaw out again. That was my understanding of it, because it starts to get a little confusing towards the end.
Well, we're going to kick the can down the road. It's kind of like making a statement of financial responsibility, where everyone's kicking the can down the road for the next generation to deal with. Same thing with Godzilla. They're freezing it, but it's only going to thaw out, and your grandkids are going to have to deal with that.
Rough movie, man.
It is.
So, in many ways, it's more bleak than the first one. The first one was.
If you're going to see this, if you were going to see this expecting, a fun giant lizard guy in a rubber suit movie, you'd be sorely disappointed.
Yeah, I enjoyed it the first time I saw it. This time watching it, I was aggravated, because it's not like some quick 80-minute movie. This is a good 2 hours.
Yeah, it goes on and on.
Yeah,
which is intentional. You got to feel all that frustration. It's got to be nailed into you.
It's like Lord of the Rings. You got to feel every step of that march.
Yes,
through all 3 books. And how tired everyone is. And just by the end when they drop the ring in, they can't even move anymore. They're just going to lay there and die. Because
it's a lot like Gus Van Sant, the 2 movies he made, the one about school shootings and the other one about Nirvana, where it's just an exercise in sitting there and wallowing in this thing that no one can stop. It reminded me of those two movies.
I never saw the one with the school shooter.
Oh, it's pretty good. But again, it's long, it's drawn out, and it's stuff you're set up to watch it unfold, and there's nothing anyone can do about it.
I remember one of my old professors saying that about the high tragedies of Shakespeare. You know, at some point you just want someone to jump in and say, "No, I'm not going to allow this to happen."
Right.
You know, somebody tackles somebody. You know, and stop this. You know, let's restore some order, and it just doesn't happen, of course. You know, and all the wrong people die, and they come to that moment where that, oh Jesus, what did I do? Right. This, that, or the other, and there's none of that here. Like you said, they just kicked the can. So I like the creature. The message is relentlessly bleak, but that doesn't make it a bad movie. Right. If anything, it's actually a good movie. It's just not. I'm certainly am glad, and there's a little bit of this in King of the Monsters. There isn't an overt message. You're seeing much more of a fun, bang 'em up, Godzilla movie, which Americans want. I don't think Americans would want to necessarily see this in a Godzilla movie. They're like, what the fuck? I want, like Rod, he wants to see, he wants to see Godzilla.
That's right. Because we grew up every Saturday watching,
Campy Godzilla.
Guy in rubber suit, kicking models over. That's what we want, but we want it realistic.
I think by the end,
for the first Godzilla.
By the end, wasn't he drop kicking? I think he flew through the air and like drop kicked somebody or something from like 100 yards or something like that.
That's my favorite one. The Smog Monster, which has got everything you need in a Godzilla movie. It is the greatest thing ever.
And then there's Kong versus Godzilla, where he shoves that tree down Godzilla's throat. You son of a bitch, get over here. It's just. So, I mean, you've got that. It's a good movie. The dialogue is confusing, and maybe that is on purpose.
Probably makes more sense in Japanese.
Probably. They could have given us one or two people to focus on a little more that you could have found, like, from the nerd crowd, the Rejects Party. That would have been cool. I would have enjoyed that. Didn't like the two main characters.
We needed an American journalist named Steve Martin to come and be
stare. Come and stare. And stare the whole time. Thanks, Raymond. Thanks for nothing. But, I mean, it's a good example of how you don't need a huge budget to make a good movie.
Right.
You don't.
You don't.
You don't need, $250 million. You don't need $250,000 to make a good script.
You don't need CGI. You don't need you don't need the spectacle if you've got a story. And this thing has a story. It has points to make. And it does it in both cinematography and in dialogue, and it's just a really well done movie.
That's that's one of the pluses of Japanese filmmaking. You usually get a really good character driven story. It's not necessarily an action flick like the John Woos or these sorts of things. Those old Chow Yun-Fat movies. Chow Yun-Fat's almost 70 now, but I mean, all those sorts of things. I mean, you get a good movie. You get a story. You get a story, and that's what you get here. And they're doing it without having to rob a bank. I think I heard that. This new game, I mean, just as an example of the scale America's at right now, this new Game of Thrones series, The House of the Dragon, which, I mean, they're basically making to compete with Lord of the Rings. I think it's going to happen. They're going to be released at the same time. So they're going to war with Lord of the Rings. And I'm rooting for House of the Dragon because of what they're doing to fucking Tolkien. It's
exactly. They would have a better time if they'd have stuck with Tolkien's vision instead of, inserting the message.
They invested $250 million just to shit on it.
And they're going to lose.
I know, because it's done out of spite.
Yeah.
It's spite.
Well, the thing that strikes me about this movie and about Toho in general is that they're making movies for the Japanese audience. And if you like them, that's great. More power to you. They're not calculating how to maximize the audience and the revenue from China and America, and then maybe Europe, and then maybe Australia. It's totally movies for a certain audience, which is Japanese people, and not even all of Japan, just the segment that goes and watches movies, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's the way Japan is. Japan is for Japanese people. You know, and if you want to come there, then hey, great. You know, you're more than welcome, and people are nice and polite, and it's totally safe, and you know, it's great, and it's, you know, it's a fun time. You could drink beer and drink whiskey and have a nice steak and go see a movie, or, you know, have some sushi, or, you know, whatever you want to do. You know, it's pretty open to you, but it's done in a Japanese way.
Yeah.
You know, and if you don't want to do it in a Japanese way, there's not much there for you. But getting back to House of the Dragon, $30 million per episode. $30 million.
How do they have that much money? How do they have that much money to spend on a fantasy movie?
I don't know.
And the best and most beloved fantasy movies are things like Conan, which wasn't all that much.
Yeah, how much?
$30 and a bag of chips.
How much did the Northman cost? Do you think?
Not
$30 million. Yeah, not $30 million per hour.
Right.
I guarantee it. But that's where we are with things. And so, you know, increasingly I'm finding there's a lot to be said for less is more.
We need another indie revolution.
I think we're in the middle of one now.
Fake indie revolution. Yeah, with A24 and Blumhouse and all
IFC and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of movies that are out there, but they're terrible at marketing. I just saw a fantastic A24 movie. It's on Showtime called After Yang. With Colin Farrell. It's like Terrence Malick made a science fiction movie.
Nice.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful to watch. You know, like, how does nobody know about this?
That's the problem.
Yeah, all you see is
spending all that money. That $30 million goes into advertising and algorithms on Facebook to make you see the trailer every 2 seconds.
Yeah, all you see is Doctor Strange. You know, and these movies have like a 6-week period. Doctor Strange is coming to Disney on the 22nd.
There you go.
It just got released like on Memorial Day or something like that, or like the week before. It's already coming to Disney Plus.
Yep, and I'll watch it then.
Yeah, I'll catch it then, because that'll be the first movie I've seen since Endgame. Maybe the second Ant-Man or something like that. So I'll look. But I mean, these things have a quick turnover, man.
Yeah.
So they're not interested in, you know, it's like a phone. They're not built to last. They're built to be replaced.
It's so weird.
Yeah, these are strange times. All right. I think that's as good a place as any to bring this to a close. Was there anything you wanted to add?
Nothing. We covered every damn thing and more.
I think so. All right. My thanks to Shin Godzilla. Out here yelling at the sky like the rest of us, trying to warn the average moviegoer and, you know, citizen, you know, just in general, just saying.
Oh, don't listen to my bullshit. Go see what you like.
Yeah, indeed. But we will be back tomorrow with Eric, and a first-time guest on the show. We're going to have Ben from Cadaver Club. And we're going to delve into a very overlooked, because that's all the show covers, overlooked movie, Kurt Russell in Bone fucking Tomahawk. Bone Tomahawk is a hardcore fucking horror Western. And I can't wait to get into that tomorrow. That'll round it out for the week, because I've had 4 streams this fucking week. That Guilty Pleasures thing, that went 3 hours and 10 minutes.
I knew it would.
That just went for fucking ever. So, and then yesterday with Toshi, and then here today with you, and now tomorrow Bone Tomahawk, and then if I don't stream again for a while, I'll be happy.
That's a lot of movies. That's a lot of movie talk.
It's a lot of talking. All right, my thanks once again, and Bill, next Tuesday is King of the Monsters, 10 p.m. So I'll let you know. Hopefully you can come in with Rod. You guys can do a show together. I don't know if you haven't in a while. Not since Silver Bullet, I think.
Yeah,
but
very hard to make it.
All right, everybody, take care and have a good night. Thanks for everybody in the stream, and we'll see you tomorrow, 8 p.m.